This episode is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, the #1 seller of games and gaming accessories. And GatheringMagic.com, the #1 resource for Magic the Gathering news and articles.
This is Devon Armstrong, and this is my Thraximundar EDH deck. Oh, this is my Thraximundar deck tech. So as I said, this is Thraximundar. His ability, he's a 6/6 for 7. The ability that when he comes into play, defending player sacrifices a creature. And whenever a player sacrifices a creature, you may put a +1/+1 counter on him. So basically, he is a 7/7 haster for 7. So getting right into the land base, I run 1, 2, 3, 4. I run 5 swamps, 4 islands, and 2 mountains. I also run the cycle of the Shocklands from the Return to Ravnica, and the cycle of Checklands, which helps with my mana. I also run Darkslick Shores, which comes into play untapped if it's in my opening hand. Painland in Underground River. Just the blue and red Epiphany, because it's our temple. It's the only one I have, but figured it would be good to have a nice scry ability in there. Only bounce land I have is Izzet Boilerworks, mainly because my Dimir Aqueduct is in a blue-red mill deck that I have. Otherwise, it would probably be in here. I also run 2 manlands, so I have Lavaclaw Reaches, who is a 2/2 black and red or becomes a 2/2 black and red with X, gets +X/+0, so it's kind of like a fire breathing but better. And also Creeping Tar Pit is a 3/2 blue and black elemental creature that's unblockable, which is great. So then I have, in terms of my 3-color lands, I have City of Brass, a new addition from the Modern Masters box that I bought. Crosis Catacombs, which is an underplayed card, I think. When I first started playing the Lair, people actually laughed at me, but I actually really like this card. It's a bounce land, just like the Karus, but it comes into play untapped, and it gets to tap for any of the 3 of my colors. So if you're ever running any of the colors which would use these layers, I would definitely recommend using them. Crumbling Necropolis taps for the 3, but comes into play tapped. Opal Palace and Cavern of Souls are just really nice filter lands. So the Opal Palace filters for any color of Thraximundar's colors, and if I use it to cast Thraximundar, he gets a +1/+1 counter on him. And then Cavern of Souls allows all of my demons to come in to play uncounterable without being countered. This is important because I do run a demon theme, similarly with a sacrifice theme to help pump up Thraximundar, which you will be seeing shortly. In terms of other utility lands, I have Minamo, School at the Water's Edge, which allows me to untap Thraximundar. It's really nice because, you want to swing with your Thraximundar, but then you want to have the sneak block afterwards. So I definitely recommend this. Halimar Depths, nice to get a free mini top ability in. I do now have the Urborg and Cabal Coffers combo. Since I do run demons, a lot of my cards are black heavy, so it's good to be able to tap for a lot of black. And of course I run Bojuka Bog, because who doesn't? And Spinerock Knoll, since he does basically attack for 7, Thraximundar makes this an instant free creature, which is just great. High Market is currently my only sacrifice outlet for my creatures in the deck. I am considering other creatures for more possibilities, so That is something I would consider in the future, but right now I only have high market, as my goal is mainly to make my opponent sacrifice things instead of me. Strip Mine, just simple land hate. And Temple of the False God, which is an auto-include in any EDH deck, I think. You will always get the 5 mana, and you need that extra 2. Moving into my artifacts, I have Gem of Becoming, which is a great little thing from N13. When I saw it, I knew I needed to get it. This allows me to search for an island, swamp, or mountain card, non-basic, so I can get my 3 Ravnica duels with this, which is great. Some changes that I've made recently, I do have a Trinket Mage in here, and I decided to change up some of my my mana rocks, specifically to be able to be tinkered up with Trinket Mage. So I have Everflowing Chalice, which is a 0 cost, but then you pay the multi-kicker too, and then it taps to add 1 colorless for every charge counter on it. I also have Soul Ring, because, of course, who doesn't? Tormod's Crypt, because you need at least 1 source of graveyard hate, and Tormod's Crypt is free, so why not? Sensei's Divining Taunt, because I like being able to control my draws, and if it weren't for the fact this was $27, I would get one of these for all of my decks. Basilisk Collar, another thing I can tutor up with Trinket Mage. When I first started playing this card, I thought it was not going to be as good as it turned out to be. I just assumed it was just going to be a placeholder until I got something better. And then as I played it, I found out actually how crazy Basilisk Collar can get. And now I'm considering putting this into other decks as well. The Death Touch and the Lifelink is really useful. So definitely get Basilisk Collar. This is a new include. Prowler's Helm from the Theros block. Allows me to basically attack unblockable. There aren't too many walls floating around, and even if there are, there's probably only one. And if you're lucky, you might be able to get the opponent to sacrifice it with Thraximundar, leaving you free to take the damage. Plus, I also have a creature that that benefits from being unblockable, and this is just a great way to get that in. Sword of Feast and Famine. I don't have the full cycle of swords. I don't have Light and Shadow, for instance, because it's too expensive. But I got this in the Modern Masters box, and it's really nice. I'm not a big fan of the discarding abilities, unless it's a lot of cards. But I do like the fact that it allows me to untap all my lands, especially because this deck, like I said, is very mana heavy. So, Sword of Feast and Famine is really good. Because I do run a sacrifice theme in this deck, I do like this little enchantment. It's called Keldon Twilight, and at the end of each player's turn, if no creatures attack that turn, that player sacrifices a creature he or she controlled since the beginning of the turn. It means that the sacrificing that the players must actually attack or else lose their utility creatures. And so that would force them to make plays that they would not ordinarily make. And it's a nice little sacrifice outlet. Grave Pact, whenever anything I have dies, your stuff will die too. So don't kill my stuff. Whip of Erebos gives everything I have lifelink, and allows me to unearth something for 4 from my graveyard. I would prefer it to not be exiled afterwards, but I don't have a lot of graveyard recursion, and sometimes you need that extra little oomph just to get it through, or you want to bring back a Solemn Simulacrum just to get another land. In any case, it's nice to have that option. Necromantic Thirst, this really should be Nim Deathmantle, but I don't own one currently. I'm currently looking for one, but until then I have Necromantic Thirst to be able to bring something back. Moving into my creatures, this is the card that was the impetus for the deck. When I first made this deck several years ago, the general was Solkanar the Swamp King. And part of the reason I chose Solkanar was because I wanted to have access to blue and black when I was in my deck. This was my first EDH deck that I made. And I saw Bloodspeaker, and I liked the fact that it was a recurable tutor. because what he can do is whenever, at the beginning of my upkeep, I can choose to sacrifice him. And if I do, I can search my library for a demon card and put it in my hand. And then when a demon comes into play, I get to return it from my graveyard to my hand. So it's a recurable tutor, which is great. I do have 11 demons in the deck, plus a copy guy. So technically that's 12, though I can't tutor for him, but the 12th one can obviously bring him back if necessary. And it's a nice outlet to have. And then when I decided to switch to Thraximundar when it came out in Alara Reborn, I knew that I would want to have it because I like the sacrifice theme of Thraximundar, and I like the idea that by sacrificing Bloodspeaker to search for a demon, I would actually be able to pump up Thraximundar. It would seem like a cool little synergy to me, not particularly amazing, but still pretty cool for somebody who is still relatively new to the concept of synergies and comboing. So this is why I run a demon theme as opposed to a zombie, which I think is kind of a boring way to build a Thraximundar deck, honestly. So let's get into my demons. This is a Bloodgift Demon. He and Harvester of Souls just draw me cards. Bloodgift Demon is a Phyrexian arena on a body. Harvester of Souls, whatever non-token creature dies, I may draw a card. Desecration Demon, 6/6 for 4. Other players can sacrifice to keep him from attacking and tap him, and then he gets bigger if they do. So it's a nice little control card that way. Rune-Scarred Demon, demonic tutor on a body. What can I say about that? Rakdos, Lord of Riots. Helps me try and keep the cost of my guys down a little bit. As you can see, since I do run demons, their mana costs are very high, so having something to bring it down does help. So, yay for Rakdos. This is the Silver Bullet of the deck. This is the one card that would most benefit from having the Prowler's Helm. He is a first strike Death Toucher, a 1/4, and he can only attack alone. But if he does attack in lands damage, that the player's life total becomes 1 instead of taking the damage from the Master of Cruelty. So that's a nice thing to do. Spirit of the Night, Demon Acroma. Gotta love this thing. 6 black for a 6/5, flying, trample, pro black, first strike when attacking, and haste back before it was officially haste. So I'm really excited to play this. I haven't had a chance to play it yet. This is a new include, but I really like this card. Lord of the Void, pretty expensive, but he allows me to exile top 7 cards of my opponent's library and then steal something awesome from them. Shadowborn Demon, because the only thing better than having a demon is having it kill non-demons. And it's also a kind of a sack outlet if I don't have 6 creatures in my graveyard, because then I had to sacrifice at the beginning of my upkeep. Reaver Demon, bit more expensive. I've been debating about putting in Dread Cacodemon over Reaver Demon because of the fact that it is a Plague Wind effect, as opposed to just being a mass terror. But I do like Reaver Demon, and since most of my creatures are black, it doesn't really hurt me that much anyway, so it basically ends up becoming a Plague Wind for 2 mana cheaper. But the heavy mana sink does make the possibility of switching out to Dread Cacodemon in the future more likely. Prince of Thralls, this is another creature that I'm thinking of taking out. I've had this out of the deck for so long, and then I just put it back in to try it out again. But again, the color cost is so heavy, and its benefit isn't as great either. If you get a Mass Wrath and it was on the board, those would all trigger, and so then opponent would have to pay a lot of life in order to have me not get everything, which is nice, but I don't know if that particular instance would necessitate having this in constantly because of the color sync, but it's something I'm trying. I might take it out later, but we'll see. Shriekmaw and Moldrifter bring me into my non-demon creatures. These two are great because they have a sacrifice outlet built into them with Evoke. This is very important for me. The fact that they can be evoked, and the evoke wording is that they are sacrificed when they come into play. So they do trigger Thraximundar, as well as triggering their abilities, and also Grave Pact. So a lot of utility out of the cheaper cost of these two guys. Fleshbag Marauder. I have also considered putting in Barter and Blood. I keep switching between the two. Barter and Blood, in general, is better for at least 2-on-2, I would say, because you get more creatures when it's or not 2-on-2, 1v1, excuse me. But I do like Fleshbag because there's a limited amount of loss for you, because you can just sacrifice the Fleshbag to it, whereas everyone else has to sacrifice some kind of creature, so chances are you will get something. But it is something you could consider putting in Barter and Blood over this. Ashling the Extinguisher, another way of getting players to sacrifice their creatures. In this case, you have to, again, deal damage to them. Shieldred allows me to get something back, and everyone else has to sacrifice stuff. Here is my Trinket Mage that I mentioned before. This gets into my tutor package. There's a lot of artifacts that I can get. I've been debating about putting in a Vault of Whispers or Darksteel Citadel so that I would have a land I could tutor up with Trinket Mage. But I definitely have this to bring up Soul Ring or Tormod's Crypt, which I would say would be the two main things I search for. You can also get, obviously, as I mentioned, Everflowing Chalice and Basilisk Collar. So there's a few things you can get. Solemn Simulacrum searches for a land, draws you a card. Mercurial Chemster, this is another card I will probably take out at some point in the future. But right now I do like it because once it's in play, it's 1 blue mana to draw 2 cards, and then 1 red mana if I decide I can instead discard a card from my hand. And even though I don't really like it, it is nice to have the ability, the option to do so. But if I do discard the card, deal damage to target creature equal to the discarded card's converted mana cost. So it's a nice alternate way of killing something. Erebos, God of the Dead. Gotta have an indestructible god that gives you cards. And also your opponents can't gain life, so that's really good. Archaeomancer gets back stuff from your yard. Phyrexian Metamorph, this is the copier guy that I was mentioning earlier. You can copy one of your demons and then get back Bloodspeaker if you want. Or you can copy something awesome of theirs. Niv Mizzet, the Draco Genius, pings a creature or player, so you can draw cards. If you need to deal damage to somebody in order to play Rakdos, that's a possibility as well. 5/5 flyer, so that's not bad either. I don't have a Ophidian Eye or anything, so I don't go crazy with Niv Mizzet with draw, but it is nice to have the 2 mana to draw a card available. I might take this out later in place of something else. I don't know. There's a few other demons I'm looking at, turning this into a more heavily demon deck. But for right now, I do like Niv Mizzet as a utility card. Sun Quan, this is my main way of getting damage in. He gives everything horsemanship, which is to say that creatures with horsemanship cannot be blocked except by creatures with horsemanship. This does not mean, however, that I cannot block your stuff, as in Shadow. This just means that only I cannot be blocked, basically, since so few people run horsemanship. So it's a nice little silver bullet in and of itself. Demonic Tutor, strictly better than Diabolic Tutor. Search your library for anything, put it to your hand. Dreadboard, destroy target creature or planeswalker. Yeah, I know, sorcery speed, but still, 2 mana, can't be beaten. Footsteps of the Goryo, return a creature from my graveyard to play, and then sacrifice it. So I get a utility creature with a come into play effect, like Simi, for example. And I get my land, and then I sacrifice it, get to draw a card from Simi, and then I would also get the +1/+1 counter on my Thraximundar. So that's cool. Slave of Bolas. Threaten, and then sacrifice it at end of turn. So I get your really big thing, I get to attack you with it, And then I get to sacrifice it to pump up Thraximundar, because awesome. Decree of Pain, because who doesn't like drawing cards when I kill everything? And yeah, I can also make everything -2/-2, but, I mean, let's be honest here. Whoever does that. All is Dust. This is also a new include. This is in here mainly for the flavor of sacrificing. Obviously, it won't pump up Thraximundar because it would kill Thraximundar in the process. So yeah, that's All is Dust. Allows me to sacrifice gets everyone to sacrifice their things, and destroys all enchantments. Pretty great, which is pretty cool. And then I also have Time Reversal as a way to reset my hand after everything has gone to the yard. Gets back your graveyard and your hand in, and then you get 7 new cards, and that's pretty great. The only thing that would be better is if I had the one that I then allowed me to untap my lands, because then it would basically be for free. So at some point I would like to get that, but for right now, Time Reversal is pretty cool. Mystical Tutor allows me to search for any of the instants or sorceries that you've already seen. Moving into instants, we have Barnstorm, because who doesn't love Barnstorm? And we have a Japanese Fact or Fiction. And Steamaugury, Fact or Fiction, except you get to make the piles. Moving into our Counterspell magic, we have Japanese Counterspell with Jace. We have a Hinder, strictly better than Dissipate in EDH, because I can counter your commander and put it on the bottom of your library. Pact of Negation, because who doesn't love a free counterspell? And then, of course, you have to pay the 5 on the upkeep, but if you're all tapped out from playing your big demon the turn before, you can still respond, which is nice. Counterflux, overload it, they can't play anything. That's pretty cool. Soul Manipulation. I almost always play this for both. Every so often when I'm really in a crutch and I need to counter something, but I don't have anything in my graveyard, I will just do the one counter spell. I have never played this where I just got something back from my graveyard. I've never had an instance where I am that desperate for something in my graveyard. But yeah, it's pretty cool. 3 mana, get 2 things. Grim Harvest. Recurable return spell. Return a creature card from my graveyard to my hand, and then I get to recover this spell if I have the 3 mana, which is cool. Terminate. Destroy target creature, can't be regenerated. Hero's Downfall, the instant speed Dreadbore. For mono block, I did have Murder, but obviously Hero's Downfall is strictly better. Chaos Warp. That problem enchantment that I can't get rid of is now gone thanks to Chaos Warp. Spin into Myth, get rid of your commander. Rakdos and Crosis Charms. Ways of cheating in extra cards, basically, is what I think of them. Rakdos Charm allows me to get rid of an artifact, as well as kill token players, because awesome. And then Crosis Charm, which can terror, or destroy an artifact, or bounce, which is cool. And finally, I have my Planeswalker. So I have Ral Zarek, gives me extra turns if I am able to get up to the 7. And Nicol Bolas, which I mainly use for the Vindicate ability. Every so often I'll use the Steel, but it's pretty awesome. I have actually managed to get the ultimate off once, which was just devastating. I won pretty soon thereafter, but yeah, Nicol Bolas. And speaking of Nicol Bolas, there's Nicol Bolas ready to stare you down. So yeah, that is my Thraximundar EDH deck. Thank you all for listening. This has been Devon Armstrong. Thank you for watching CMDR Decks. Don't forget to subscribe and favorite.